Teachers are role models. Educators like Theodore and Nancy Faust remind us in their book, The Students Are Watching, that our students watch us. We must therefore ask important questions as their guides and role models. What do we stand for? How is this reflected in our routines, activities, and rituals? How do we model, as institutions and as the people who work with students, that which we most value? There are national and state code of ethics that help educators realize the level as to which we are influencing young people. At the national level, the NEA separates concerns for the student and for the profession. The educator, believing in the worth and dignity of each human being, recognizes the supreme importance of the pursuit of truth, devotion to excellence, and the nurture of democratic principles. Essential to these goals is the protection of freedom to learn and to teach, and the guarantee of equal education opportunity for all. The educator accepts the responsibility to adhere to the highest ethical standards. And in the state of Texas, we see that the standards seem to focus also on ethical concerns in addition to standards towards 2, the profession, and 3, the student. The governing body for the ethics is the State Board for Education Certification. The statement of purpose. You can see here in the bullets that the Texas educator shall comply with standard practices and ethical conduct. The Texas educator, in maintaining the dignity of the profession, shall respect and obey the law. The Texas educator, in exemplifying ethical relations with colleagues, shall extend just and equitable treatment to all. The Texas educator, in accepting a position of public trust, shall measure success by the progress of each student towards realization of their potential as a citizen. The Texas educator, in fulfilling responsibilities in the community, shall cooperate. The SBEC is solely responsible for enforcing these purposes and ethics for the certification and disciplinary proceedings. In this presentation, we will provide you with examples of behavior that places the teacher and student at risk, incorporate clear visuals of how standards within the Texas Code of Ethics are violated, and ask questions in hopes that teachers observing this presentation can allocate their own personal and professional life choices.
Last Friday was a teacher work day. 28-year-old Megan Updegraff came to school to prepare her first grade classroom for the first day. West Elementary is an Arlington ISD school located in Grand Prairie city limits. According to Grand Prairie police, a colleague suspected Updegraff might be drunk and called it in. She agreed to a breathalyzer and multiple sobriety tests and was arrested on campus for public intoxication.
The example that was just covered is a violation of Standard 1.13, and that states that the educator shall not be under the influence of alcohol or consume alcoholic beverages on school property or during school activities when students are present. Now, while the students were not present during this incident, it clearly states that the educator shall not be under the influence of alcohol on school property, and in this case, the educator was. What would you do? I think the obvious answer is that you wouldn't show up to the school you work at drunk, regardless of whether or not students are present, as this is a clear violation of the Teacher Code of Ethics. Other options you could consider. It is important that if you choose to drink, you drink responsibly on days that you are not scheduled to work or even the days immediately before you are scheduled to go to work. But if poor choices were made and you found yourself in this position, I think it would be best to call in and not show up and then face the consequences of missing a scheduled teacher workday. The Teacher Code of Ethics clearly states you may not be under the influence of alcohol on school property. So if you're under the influence of alcohol, you should not be going to school.
The alleged incident happened April 22nd in a classroom filled with students. According to court documents, Eric Waters instructed students to begin working on their assignments after finishing breakfast. A student who has difficulty speaking English got up to throw away some trash. That's when Waters allegedly grabbed him by the shoulder. As the student moved away, he then grabbed him by his shirt collar and backpack straps and squeezed tightly around his neck, briefly cutting off his air supply. Waters allegedly threw him to the floor, pinned him down with his knees. Another student pushed the emergency call button, and when the front office asked what the emergency was, Waters, according to court papers, said everything was fine. Then he allegedly clenched his fist and told the student, "You're lucky I didn't rip up your face."
The teacher in this video was accused of assaulting the student and also threatening more violence against that student. This steps into Standard 3 of the Educator Code of Ethics, which covers the ethical conduct that teachers have towards students. But it does also cover Standard 1.9 of the Educator Code of Ethics, which states that the educator shall not make threats of violence against district employees, board members, students, or parents of students. When the student uh, claimed that he could have ripped that student's face off, that is a threat of violence against the student. And also, the entire act, the alleged act, is a violent act towards that student. Koshak mentions that laws and ethics codes may not always be specific enough. However, in this case, the law is quite specific, and the right thing to do is very obvious. We have a responsibility as educators to protect students and keep students safe. Everything that we do needs to be in the best interest of this student. And in this case, this teacher assaulted the student, caused them harm, and threatened to harm them even more. That student not only, has to deal with the trauma of being harmed by that teacher, but has to deal with the threat that that teacher, gave them. This example really illustrates the importance of positive behavior management training and teacher certification programs. Um, Students sometimes are going to do things that teachers don't want them to do, or maybe they won't do something that they want them to do. And having the tools in your toolkit to handle that situation in an appropriate way is extremely important. And being prepared for those situations can keep teachers from losing their cool, and they can keep situations like this from happening.
Here at Concordia Lutheran High School, a U.S. history and world geography teacher, 62-year-old Mark Allen Davis, has been charged with possession of a prohibited weapon. Tomball police say another teacher reported Davis after the teacher told investigators that Davis had been acting, quote, more angry than usual, unquote. When they asked why, the teacher told police that Davis had been venting that Davis thought he lost a coaching job opportunity at another school due to a bad reference from Concordia Lutheran's principal. The witness teacher also said that Davis had also mentioned that the school's head baseball coach had previously denied him the assistant coach job because of discrimination. Then investigators said Davis told the other teacher that this kind of treatment makes people, quote, snap, and proceeded to tell the teacher that he was planning to buy a rifle and that he already had a gun upstairs, the witness teacher told security. Davis was removed from school yesterday.
In this case, we see that the teacher is violating Standard 1.9, in which the teacher shall not make any threats of violence against school district employees, school board members, students, or parents of student. The teacher being accused here not only threatened his principal, but also told a coworker about a gun he kept in his classroom that he was willing to use if for any means. As an educator, we know that disagreements are bound to happen due to different mindsets or not seeing eye to eye. But at the end of the day, we all need to remember that it is a professional setting. And in this case, this teacher forgot about his professional setting and ended up making threats to his own principal, including telling a coworker that he was willing to buy a rifle and that he already had a gun upstairs. Automatically, this makes the situation way worse because a weapon is involved, and not only is this person putting the principal in danger, but he's also putting anyone at the school in danger in case it ever led to more. What I would do if I had a disagreement with the principal, the first thing would be to calm my emotions and go through my thought process of how to handle it, and remembering that at the end of the day we are professionals and that it should not cross the line of insulting or disrespecting, or at the most not even making threats to anyone regardless of who they are. And of course, never bringing a weapon to school, because there are children there, and that only just makes the situation even worse and puts everyone at a great risk.
Standard 1 of the Educator Code of Ethics provides a framework that guides us through dilemmas that we may find in our professional lives as educators. While some of these examples display obvious violations of the Educator Code of Ethics and the law, observing and reflecting on these examples can help us better understand our code of ethics, and it'll help us prepare ourselves for situations in the future that might be a little bit more difficult to navigate than some of these examples. Thank you all very much.